Welcome, guys, to this client interview with my former client, Nathan, who got some great results, but I want to let him talk about his experience with working with me, what kind of things he learned, what kind of things he can share with you guys. It could be valuable to you in your journey as an entrepreneur. And that's basically it. So Nathan, for those of you who don't know, is a tennis mindset coach. I think I'm saying it correctly. He's honestly doing amazing work. Just go check out his Instagram page and you can see what he's doing. He struggled a lot with that himself, I believe, and then he overcame it and he started coaching others. It's a bit the same how I started coaching. I also struggled a lot with performance, and then when I fixed it, I started coaching others. But Nathan, maybe you can give a short introduction of yourself to the people listening.
Yes, and thanks for inviting me. So I'm a tennis and a mindset coach. Those are my two biggest passions. I've been a tennis player my entire life, and I struggled a lot with it myself, with the nerves, just being negative and not reaching my potential. And I started to help myself after, lots of trial and error, and it became a passion of mine. I got results for myself. I started to help others, and that's what I do now. I just work with tennis players, and also like sometimes with some other athletes as well. Also like with parents, like recently, a bit more. Just to help them overcome their mental challenges, so they can feel better, feel more confident, and excel in matches, and just achieve their goals in less time, really.
Yeah, that's it's so awesome. I don't know if you noticed about me, but I played tennis for 2-3 years during my university years, and tennis is such a mental game. Like, I don't know, for the people watching, you can try it out and you can see it for yourself, but it's so mental, as in you can, for example, be up 5-1 in the set, and you win the set, or you win the set when you have 6 games, right? Yeah. And then maybe you lose 2 games or 3 games and it's 5-4. And then it's such a mental battle, because it's like, oh, if I lose one again, then we go into 5-5. But if I win, then I win the set. And there's so much hanging on to it. And it's just like how you position your mind is the most important in that, because there shouldn't be a difference between a game set or anything else. And I truly believe I could have used some mental coaching in that period as well. And I think it's very valuable to do. I was also curious about that. How does it actually look like for people watching? What kind of things do you work on with a coaching client?
Yeah, that's a great point. A lot of the mental training, mental coaching, and sports psychology is based on the conscious mind. And even for myself as a tennis player, throughout my career, I did a lot of that work, like where I would like try to be more positive, or use a ritual or like a breathing method in a moment. It would help, like if I would feel more tension, or if I would feel more negative, but it doesn't help to create a lasting change and like a real transformation. So this is where you have to work more on the subconscious minds to really make a big difference. And that's what I focus on. That's what I feel what helps me to get actually like results when I work with tennis players. And when I help them, I go to the root cause. So we don't focus on the symptoms when these emotions, or when the pressure, or when you play inconsistent is there. Of course, I have some tools for that as well, but I also I give them everything they need before they step onto the court, so they are ready in advance, and the pressure, for instance, or the negative emotions barely show up in the first place. It's a process, of course, and besides that, I focus on certain routines as well. Since I've been a tennis player, and I'm a tennis player, there are also certain routines that that some of the best tennis players are doing, that will just help you to win more, because most or many tennis players, they practice in a way that's not as efficient, as effective. So besides the mindset part, I focus on that as well.
Interesting. Yeah. What kind of results is just for me, I'm also interested in, like, what kind of results do people get when they get into your program? What are they experiencing before and what are they experiencing after?
Yeah, so when they get started with me, I measure their mindset, actually. Like, I put it on paper, which is kind of a different thing as well. I think what I do, after working with so many people and seeing what works and what doesn't work, like just being really clear, okay, where are you at exactly? So let's say they come in with a confidence with a 4 out of a 10, let's say. And then when they go through the program, we evaluate it and make sure that, hey, everything they implement, that that it feels good and that it works. Those are always like the two things I check for. And usually, they go to, like, let's say an 8 out of a 10 with their mindset, for instance, or with the pressure. It was a 7 before in matches where they got more tight and played worse, and now it's a 3 or like a 4. I recently had a tennis player who was just went from like an 8 to like a 2. That was quite insane. And that can happen in a matter of weeks to months, usually. Let's say my program is 4 months, but that's also what I hope, or what I try to do with tennis players.
Yeah.
Try to get results as quick as possible, and obviously, move up the ranking and achieve like the tennis goals as well. So
Yeah, exactly. Because that's for the people watching. I think you told me that some months ago, what kind of ranking you are with tennis, and I was just blown out of the water. And it's like up to professional level, right? Like it's a bit, like a tiny bit under there. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, let's segue into I think last year around December, you came to me, you said, hey, coaching program, I'm curious about what it does. To note for people listening, we were already friends before that. I think we went to dinner once, we knew each other from another program we were in. So first for me, it was like, I I don't know if I can help a friend, but we started talking, and I thought I could really help you with what you are facing. Could you maybe elaborate a bit on how was life back then? What were you struggling with?
Yeah. I struggled with consistency was a big thing. I was doing all kinds of things, and kind of the, how do you say, the shiny
Any object
object
syndrome?
syndrome. I was just, I wanted to be everywhere and whatnot. And so that was one thing. I also didn't really have the systems in place for my business, or to track results with, whether it was just the actions, or even like with my health as well. And that was really something that you helped me a lot with. But those were just like things I was just not really, I mean, I know consistency is key, but you really helped. I guess we can dive more into that. And then with having a system in place as well, because since I was all over, the results were also like all over sometimes. I guess those were the two biggest things.
Yeah, because that's what also, when we started talking, I think we went to dinner maybe in November or something, and I still remember we were in a car together, and I was basically saying you like, dude, it's so easy. Like, you just have to be consistent and you make it work. And why am I saying that? Because I saw, hey, you have great content, you have a great product, you are a great coach. So the only thing that's really lacking is consistency, because if you keep on starting and quitting, then it's very difficult to build up momentum, because every time you just get a bit of momentum, you stop, and then it takes a long time to actually start it up again. Whereas if you just do the necessary required actions day in, day out, they don't even have to be a full day of work. It could just be like 2 hours of sending prospects message or doing something important. But if you do that daily, it compounds. I think there's this quote or this thing with James Clear who says that if you get 1% better every day, you end up becoming 37 times better in the full year, because it has a compound effect. Like you grow with 1% the first day, but then you grow with 1.1% the second day, and you grow with you get the point, of course.
Sure, yeah.
And that's I think what most people are in all areas of life, and of course I also have that in some areas of my life. They're not seeing that the only way you get results is through compound interest, by putting in the work, and then maybe in a few months' time, in a few years, you actually see the results. I think the financial thing is the thing people can relate to the most, is that if you put in, I don't know, $100 every month, and you get, I don't know, 8% return, which is quite high, then in 20 years you have $1 million or something. But that's only because you put it in consistently. So yeah, that's awesome to hear. What kind of things did you get out of the program?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was great that, and this is a great insight also, like, because when we worked together, it was like you were just a step ahead of me where I wanted to be as a coach, as an entrepreneur. And because of that, you were able to spot the blind spots in me that I wasn't able to see myself. So like, even now you mentioned the consistency, and that had to do with the mindset as well. And, you know, even though I'm a mindset coach, I have still a lot to work on, right? So
yeah, but me too, like the same. Yeah.
No, and like there's always a next level, and that's and you helped me to, so for instance, you know, like with the inconsistency was also a result of shorter term thinking, like because if you know, like, hey, if I were to do this for a long period of time, then the results are going to be inevitable. But if the focus is not, and if you don't create that association in your brain, then it's really easy to, for instance, to get hooked into not seeing results right now. And you're like, oh, maybe it doesn't work, I'm going to try something else. Or like, hey, that looks good. And then, being drawn into that. When you play tennis, I think it's easier mindset wise for the business, at least for me. But
yeah, but you can see immediate results with tennis, right? Like one game could already be improved by improving your mindset. Whereas business, yeah, if you start prospecting, I think it's also what I said to you, is like it will take a month for it to actually get going. And then you will get the discovery calls, then you will get the sales calls, and then you will get the clients. But it will take a month to actually build that portfolio up, to talk to a lot of people. And I think that's exactly what happened. What kind of advice would you give to people listening that also struggle with consistency? What would your advice be right now?
To look at what is causing the inconsistency, at the mindset that's underneath. I think that's what you helped me with. So I can really say, you know, so for instance, like for me personally, it was because I was focused on shorter term so much, and you helped me see that, and many more things as well, like then the doubt, for instance, of not seeing results, like how to build more trust in the process so you stay consistent, because you see, that's what you taught me as well, like associating the actions with a reward, even though the result isn't there yet. And like, yeah, you add some great things in there as well, so because the actions are always a result of the mindset, and it's usually unconscious, and that's where obviously your help was so helpful, being able to see it, because you have gone through challenges that I've been going through. It felt so perfect, because every call we had, every time we had, it was like, oh nice, yeah, because that was the thing I wasn't seeing, like, oh yeah, because you've experienced that before. It's answer your question.
Yeah, definitely. This morning I also did a podcast interview with the one-on-one coach I had for, I think, 6 or 7 months, which I learned a lot of this stuff from as well, about tracking, about being consistent. And then I think for me I was already consistent. I was just not tracking it, and then not really seeing that the actions you take today actually get you to that goal. And that's the example I don't know if I gave you, but I gave to people. It's like, if you are training for the Olympics and you have your full training plan, now I think most people that are already at that level with being an athlete, sure, they have mental problems and things are hard, but I think they continually see like, hey, if I do this workout right now, it's a stepping stone until the goal of going to the Olympics. And then the training becomes a lot easier because it's like, hey, I do this, then I get to that goal. I think it also refers to, have you ever read the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl?
Not yet, but it's on my list actually.
Yeah, it's so good. And yeah, one of the things he talks about is that the people that survived Auschwitz, they had a purpose that was larger than them, or they had, yeah. So for example, what he saw is that when people said to themselves like, hey, the 25th of August we will be free, and they would get like all the hopes up and they would have energy for like, yeah, we're getting free. And then the moment the 25th of August came around and they didn't get free, he saw them just die in front of his eyes, and usually they would be dead in a few weeks because they lost like the hope for living. And for him, it was, I think he wrote a whole manuscript about something, I can't remember what it was, but they took that away from him before he got into the camp. So he just had in his mind, like, I'm getting out of this camp and I'm writing that manuscript and I'm having the impact with that. And that made sure that he could actually endure what was being done there. And it's the same with consistency. Like if your goal is like you really want to achieve it and you know why you want to achieve it, then the steps that will take you there, they're not as hard, because it's like you like that goal so much, want to get there so bad, that doing the action is less uncomfortable than not hitting the goal. That should be the most uncomfortable thing, not actually hitting the goal. But yeah, it's a super interesting book. Yeah, I can recommend it.
Nice.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, man. What maybe more as a general thing, what kind of advice would you give to entrepreneurs? Yeah, just in anything, what you've learned maybe in the past 6 months, but also going back from that.
The first thing that's coming to mind is that yeah, to follow your, I mean, it sounds so cliche, but really to follow your intuition. Even like working with you, it's always leading to an inner obstacle as well, like, because like then the doubts or then the fears are coming up, like, oh, like for instance, financially, or like I'm not sure if it's the right time. And
Yeah.
actually, like before I reached out to you, I was like, it felt right at the time, because I think you post something on Instagram or something, and it's just, oh yeah, like that would be great, I think. But then it was like immediately like, oh, but can I afford, or if just my mind started going crazy. And it's a typical thing, but to build the trust in yourself, that's in your intuition or your heart, however you want to call it, following your gut, building the trust in that it knows much better than your mind sometimes, comes up with. And creating a list of evidence, like, hey, you know what, it did work out in the past, like, hey, I can do it, or hey, it is worth what you're saying, the shorter term challenge, because it's giving me something greater. And I feel that is so easy to say, but not easy to implement. And I feel like that's really what differentiates those, whether it's entrepreneurship, in sports, and anything in life, in health, those who feel better and get results from those who don't. So
yeah, definitely. And for me, it's also one of the most important things, like listening to your intuition, because usually it's right. I've had so many instances where my intuition was the thing that was the right thing. And sure, sometimes it's not the case, but I think the ability to listen to that and to actually take action on it, instead of listening to your reptile brain, which just wants to stay the same and just wants to be safe, it's one of the key core concepts. Yeah, I had one other thing that I was thinking about, but I can't really get to it. Last question: how are things different now? So how's your consistency? How are things now?
Yeah, I mean, I planned my days much better. My year also ahead with the months ahead. I wasn't looking so far ahead, so everything's just so much more structured, so much more consistent. Like, and I'm tracking everything a lot more, feeling more confident with that in myself, and it's showing up in the results, and even with the people that I'm working with as well. It's always, I'm able to help them even better from the things I've learned from you.
Yeah.
So yeah, productivity wise as well, just how to organize my mindset and like the day-to-day actions.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Big
Awesome,
difference.
man. That's great to hear. And I think that's also the case, right? Like, I think one of my coaches said it to me is like, don't believe a coach who doesn't have a coach himself, because that person you have blind spots as well. It's not like you're perfect. And it's funny to see that all the greats, they have coaches themselves. So it's not like a weird thing. It's just showing your own blind spot. The last question I have for you, which is more like a fun question, is if you look back at your life, who was your biggest mentor that you learned the most from? It could be in tennis, it could be in business, it could be whatever. And what is one practical advice you could give the people listening about what you learned from him or from her?
What's coming to mind is not a person, but life itself, actually. It may sound weird because I've had so many coaches, but I feel just over and over that who's teaching me the most is just experience itself, just really life itself. And I just talked about, following your intuition, your gut. But then there's also the part of which you teach as well, of like, okay, measure and track if it's what works.
Yeah.
Because there's always like, it can feel good, but also does it actually work and get results? So one of the things that if I could go back in time, is to observe myself, my mindset more, because that's always the cause of everything, and really be honest with myself as well. I think that's one of the main insights for me, which you talk about a lot too, integrity. Really being honest with myself, like, hey, I struggle with this, and that's okay, but this is where I'm at, and this is how it's impacting how I feel, how I perform, and really, just take ownership and responsibility. Like, okay, well, I'm the cause for this. It's not because I don't have time, or I'm not able to do it, or it's that coach. And just really see, okay, it's a good insight, and to learn from it, and to see, adjust and track and observe, but really go to the root cause, which is always you and your mindset.
It always is. Yeah.
So
Yeah, super interesting. And that's it. The thing you were talking about with the extreme ownership. Like, sometimes I ask the question people for fun, also in the coaching conversations. They say like, yeah, I don't know how, or yeah, I don't have the time. And then I tell them like, if I would give you $1 million to do this, would you somehow make it happen? Yeah, of course. Okay, so what's preventing you right now? And then it's just your mind, right? It's just that you're not making it important enough, or there's something happening, but usually it's not a question of how, it's just a question of what's your commitment and what's your level of ownership. Yeah.
You've asked me
Awesome.
that question as well, and it's funny how your mind just like, oh well, if I actually would get $1 million.
Yeah, for me it's
Check it out.
also still like this Wednesday, so I'm in a performance coaching thing myself as well, and he asked, okay, so look at your quarterly targets, and people who are listening can do this as well. Look at your quarterly targets. And he said, who are the people that you could make powerful commitment or a powerful ask to? like who could you ask something to get to your desired end result? What are all the people you can do it to? And he didn't ask the $1 million question, but it was sort of in the same phase. And last week, I already thought that I had done all of it, that I've already asked for all the referrals, that I've called all the leads, I did everything in order to get to the goal. And he gave me three minutes to write it down. And I had a full list of people that I could ask for a referral, that I could call, who I had a call with in the past. And I was like, shit, my mind was playing tricks on me. It was sort of like saying like, oh, no, it's fine. You've already done all the work. You've done good. Whereas if you ask that question, then your mind opens up again and you start to see the possibilities of what you can actually do. So yeah, that's super interesting. Awesome. Yeah, let's round the interview off here. Where can people find you if they want to know more about you? I think I'll link you as well in the thing below. Maybe there's someone listening here who has some problems with mindset around tennis and they could contact you. But what is the best place to actually find you or contact you?
On Instagram at the handle is tennis mindset coach. If you follow me or send me a message over there, yeah, I'll just reply and yeah. Awesome,
man. Yeah, then I really want to thank you for taking the time to do this interview. I had a lot of fun. I hope you had too. For the people listening, yeah, if you're interested in what we do, just send a message and I'll give you more information. And for now, have a great time.